over to Lisa Baskin. And again, the Planning Commission did review this at their last meeting and did recommend some changes with some input on the public hearing process that we can talk about when we get there.
Were there changes incorporated in the red line that we received?
Yes, they just went with staff's recommendation.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying there were changes in addition to this.
No, they did have, we did make some changes between Planning Commission and City Council, but they were mainly staff recommended changes.
Okay.
And we
Okay.
have a few others for you tonight.
But those would have already been incorporated in the
Yes.
red line we received?
That's correct.
Okay.
So, Lisa, thanks for joining us. This is the mayor. Our Lisa just introduced you. Great to have you on video with us. If you ever come in person, we'll have some food for you here as well too, okay? So, take it away.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. As Lisa said, my name's Lisa Watts Baskin, and I'm working tonight, believe it or not, from my city hall in North Salt Lake because I sit on my city council. But I am representing you under contract, so I needed to step away to address this presentation. Now, the way it works out is I'm under contract with the state of Utah, and it's through this direct legal and planning assistant consultant pool, and we're considered the statewide technical support team. It was created in July, but really wasn't up and running until November. And it's to assist cities in amending the ordinances to accommodate Senate Bill 174, which passed in the last legislative session. So the Department of Workforce Services was appropriated $3.3 million to address this kind of work. You, as a result, don't have to pay anything for my assistance or for our firm's assistance. The state will pay us directly. You don't have to be billed for it. And there are caps on the amount that we can get paid. So it's not a boondoggle. In full transparency, I wanted to let you know that Lisa Romney's been very helpful, along with Whitney, to provide direction. And the Planning Commission recommended approval at the last meeting with some technical changes and clarifications that are incorporated here. In terms of what happened in Senate Bill 173, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. What it does, it enacts a new process for subdivision review and approval of completed residential subdivision land use applications. This only applies in the residential category and only a subset within that. So the reason that the legislature did this is they wanted to reduce the delay times in preliminary and final plat review and approvals, and also to prevent confusion to the public. As you know, and as I know, as we sit on the city council, we sometimes have people come who would like to address administrative decisions that have already been made. And at that point, they're outside of our control. It's already been a done deal, so to speak. And they make public comments in public hearings or public meetings, and we really haven't anything to do to say to change that outcome. And it sometimes looks like a lack of leadership. And so this was one of the reasons that it was addressed. What is interesting historically was at the Utah Municipal Attorneys Association last spring, this issue came up with regard to city councils being put between a rock and a hard place in trying to address commentary from the public. And then in the legislative session, the heavily populated populace there is developers. And so the development community has some strength there and has proposed to streamline the process. So that is the purpose. Now, in its legislation, it gave deadlines to two different types of cities. You're the first type. You're a city that has more than 10,000 residents and is a city within the first, second, or third class county if it's less than 5,000. So you have to have this done by February 1, 2024. So that
We went mute. We lost your audio. Lisa, can you hear us? We lost your audio.
Lisa,
She's mouthing. I can see her.
we can't hear you anymore. Can you hear us?
She can hear
I don't.
Is it on that end, probably?
Do you have?
Let me go get some help, one moment.
It's on.
You're back.
Okay.
So we lost you about when you're saying February 1st, a little bit after that.
Okay, so in a nutshell, you guys have to have it done by February 1st, 2024. Smaller cities and in different counties have to have it done by December 31st. So what I wanted to tell you what it does, there's about 9 things that that the Senate Bill 174 does, and what now we are incorporating into your city ordinances. First, it applies these new procedures only to subdivisions for single-family, two-family, or duplex residential dwellings and townhomes. It doesn't apply to others. It completely eliminates the city council in its authority to approve these subdivision applications. It doesn't eliminate your legislative authority to set the ordinance of what you want your communities to look like, but in terms of the review and approval process, you will not have a final say or have any authority. It makes the subdivision submission process, review and approval completely administrative. So it's going to work with your planning department, your community development department, your staff, and the planning commission, all in the administrative arena. But it also eliminates the planning commission as having any authority to make a final plat approval. That goes to your community development director. It also required that the cities create an administrative land use authority. I call it in the ordinance ALUA, so ALUA, to conduct the earliest review and conduct a preliminary plat and plan review. So upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission and Lisa Romney, your administrative land use authority is your Planning Commission. And many cities are doing it this way. And in your working draft of the document, that is spelled out in section 15.01.1040. Okay, it caps the review cycle so that there's not this ping pong ball kind of procedure going back and forth. And this is particularly, I think, troublesome to the development community. So the review cycles are limited to 4. And I'll explain those in just a minute. So with the preliminary plat, you have 2 review cycles, and with the final plat, you have.
Oh, we just lost your audio again.
We just lost you again. She can hear us, can't she?
Yeah, she can hear us. Something's happening on her end, like goes out. Lisa, while she's trying to figure that out, one question I had is I'm trying to remind myself, did we give ourselves in our draft the longest statutory timeframe for our?
I've lost my audio.
There, we can hear you, Lisa.
They can't hear me.
We can hear you now.
Now we can hear you again.
Why does it keep coming in and out, do you
Don't
think?
know.
I think Mayor Horrocks wants her back.
Is it the cord? Maybe I bumped it?
Her IT likes me as much as my IT likes me. Or her IT likes her as much as my IT likes me. Just not a lot.
Okay.
We can hear you.
We can hear you right
We
now.
can hear you.
We can hear you again.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's my effort to feel really important. That's why this is happening. Anyway, so it caps the review cycles to 4, and I just talked about that. And it defines what a complete application is, and that triggers the time clock. So once a submission comes in and the community development director says, okay, this application has been submitted, it's complete enough that we can begin the review cycle. And it's that director that makes that decision. And then it establishes these residential types that it applies to. But additionally, Centerville City is going to do away with concept plans because they're not required anymore for these types of subdivisions. But you will be using a pre-application option, which becomes kind of a conversational tool.
Lost you.
Oh dear.
Nope.
We lost you again. We can't hear you.
I wonder if she just calls in.
Looks like she's trying to do that.
Lisa, to that last point, we get to dictate a little bit, or at least our community development director, when the clock starts ticking based off the complete application. We can't drag our feet, obviously.
No, we do not. So if they submit it on day one and it's actually complete, but it takes us 5 days to determine that it's complete, we're 5 days into the 15 business days.
Yes, yeah.
Which is frightening for us as staff.
I agree.
But that's what we're giving ourselves is 5 days, basically. It's not spelled out in the ordinance, but we have 5 days to determine its completeness. Then we have 10 business days for the rest of staff to drop
that-
everything and review these
And that's
applications.
the longest statutorily we can take.
Yes.
So we have given, to answer the question I asked earlier, we have given ourselves the longest time period possible.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we will be using that.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Having sat on both sides of the diocese, frankly, I think it's a good, in long term, I think it's good. So long as, my next question is, do we feel like, are there any holes where we wish our subdivision ordinance or others were tighter so that we didn't?
Right.
So we don't miss anything?
We are trying to find those, but I'm sure we won't find all of them, and a lot of them will pop up later.
Okay.
Okay, now,
We can hear you.
okay, I've got two microphones now, so if one backs out, maybe the other will be there.
Seems like one of them goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got my lovely city recorder and city planner here trying to help me out.
We're gonna have your
Okay.
whole city council and Mayor Horrocks in here by
That's
the end of
right.
Yeah, no.
Go get him.
No, yeah, go get him, will you? Okay. And then, the concept plan won't be something that you'll utilize with this, just a pre-application proceeding, hearings, not even hearings, pre-application process that you sit down and discuss the proposed project. And there's a new appeals process created to review when things don't go exactly right. It's not written very well in Utah code, and so in our version, we refer to the code as it is, and then also you will use your Board of Adjustment, which you typically do for appeals, but in some instances, there will be an appeals panel that will have to be created, which consists of the plaintiff's engineer, the defendant's engineer, and a neutral engineer. I'm using those legal terms, but the petitioner and the respondent, and then a neutral engineer for a specific type of panel. Basically, if you have a dispute arising from the subdivision improvement plan, you've got this appeals panel. Otherwise, it goes to your Board of Adjustment. And some have to be done within 10 days and some within 30. So the idea is that you move things along. Now, the review cycles are provided in your ordinance, and 15.03 are the review cycles for your preliminary plat, all of it for preliminary, actually, and then 15.4 is for your final plat in the ordinance. And I'm going to go over these cycles just briefly. Basically, it's sort of, the process is that you have 15 business days, and you get this initial city review, as Lisa was telling you. And once the application is complete, then you go more formally into the process, and the city staff reviews it and comes back with red lines on this preliminary plat, gives it back to the applicant. They may even ask for additional material. And then the applicant has 20 days to come back, respond to those specific changes. And if there's no response within 20 days, the review cycle is not considered complete, and you can't move on to the next phase. So it's back and forth. The submission, the review, the response, and then the final reply from the city. And all of that is 15 business days for the initial and 20 business days for the reply. And also they have 10 days if they've got incomplete revisions. That's your review cycles 1 and 2, as I call them, for the preliminary plat. Then you've got final plat. Just in the explanation here, I'm going to call it review cycle 3 and 4. But the final plat is the development reviews and staff, the development the Community Development Department, Development Director and staff do this, and that is 1504. Yeah, again, 15 business days from when the applicant submits it. They provide red lines and comments, and then 20 business days for the applicant to come back. And this process is repeated if it's not all addressed, all the comments aren't addressed in that cycle, they can't move to the next cycle. And then the final plat is where the Community Development Director will look at it, has 15 business days, and staff, they review and redline, and then 20 business days for the applicant to respond, and all the comments must be addressed. And if they are, and it's complete and satisfactory to the Community Development Director, then it is approved. The final plat will be approved. However, if the applicant resubmits or there's some material changes to the plan, it can go back to that last cycle and address just those material changes.
Do we define what material means?
Well, look, I'm trying to think that the state legislature even didn't, but let's see. No, we don't have
So we
material
have broad
change.
authority then, maybe on what we.
And we have to have something
material.
to debate.
Yeah. okay.
Yeah. You would have authority to say this is material change based upon the discretion of the director and staff. So if you go through, and I've got the version here, and you probably have it as well. I can share it if you want. There it is. And I can share it. Just a second. Whoops. Let me go back to share screen. Do you see it?
No, we're just seeing you.
We can pull it up on our end if you
Yeah, we
want.
have, it's on our.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah,
So,
it's in front of us now, Lisa.
Do you just
Okay.
do you just want the ordinance? Oopsie.
Do the red line, probably.
Yeah, do the red line.
and so Lisa,
What's your name?
It's, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, so
Do both.
if you go through the document, is it too loud? Okay, here comes the chief. He's armed and dangerous. You're going to meet our whole city before this is over. Okay, so the definitions, we have administrative land use authority that's defined as the planning commission. Okay, and as I say, many cities are doing it that way. And that's at 15-01-040. And then there's a checklist, excuse me, I'm going to go back and say the applicant is defined. Many places within the code it says subdivider, but we're going to use the term applicant, and that's the owner of the land or an owner's agent who submits a subdivision land use application to divide or subdivide. And then you have a checklist, and this is the checklist that the city will create that has a whole list of items for all different things, whether it's utilities, roads, whatever it is, that has to be satisfied by the city engineer and public works department and so forth. And that's a checklist that is published and maintained on your city's website so that the applicant will know what criteria must be met. Then we define the community development director as
Lisa?
yeah.
I've got a question. So if you have a small subdivision, can you have different checklist items for very, very small, like say it's a single lot subdivision into from one lot to 2 lots? Can you make the checklist be easier is the wrong word, but more simplified based off of a smaller? One of my questions, and we'll get to it, and I've talked about this with our council and even planning commission before, was do you require an ALTA survey every time you do an application or a plat? And we decided not to do that, but it looks like some of these requirements are almost, for a final plat, gets us to an ALTA survey. I'm not sure, it's kind of two-part question a little bit.
Well, specifically to the checklist, there's one response, and that is, if the city doesn't have a comprehensive checklist, and this residential usage, this land use usage would apply that list does need to be comprehensive. The reason being, if you don't have that on the checklist, the city waives it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it can have a dire consequence for the city in terms of regulating the land use on a particular project. Now, Lisa has provided specific language with regard to minor subdivisions, and you'll see that later on in the ordinance.
Correct.
And that the review cycle applies to that for minor subdivisions as well. But the checklist itself is one that has to be maintained and published, and also one that will be comprehensive enough to cover all of the needs. So it can't be, it wouldn't suit you, I think, to make it as minimal as maybe you think it should.
Yeah, and if I could just add in as well, this is one of the discretionary points, but the way the ordinance is drafted for, we're now calling our small subdivision a minor subdivision, we went ahead and just said, look, for minor subdivisions and plat amendments, you are going to follow final plat procedure. And so the checklist, we have two checklists, one for preliminary and one for final.
Correct, and that's
So
final
those
is-
two additional kinds of applications, a plat application and a minor subdivision, you're just going to jump right to final plat, but you are required to do final plat. And that's not necessarily statutory, but that's the way we've
Sorry,
proposed it.
and that's what I mean. So like section 15.04030, it's almost like subset E and N cover a little bit of what I'm getting at in terms of recording or showing easements on a final plat. And I have to scroll back up, but that's what I was getting at.
So I agree with Lisa that we need to keep our checklist comprehensive, otherwise we waive things. And so for the next year or so, as we're getting up to speed on all of this, you know, my advice is to stick with that very lengthy checklist.
And
for-
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
No.
I just worry a little bit like when you have a small subdivision plat. Again, we've talked about it. Get an ALTA survey is gonna be another $5,000 for somebody on a minor plat. But I think for our protection, maybe that's just the way it has to be.
Yeah. And at this point, our ordinance doesn't require that level of title report as we've discussed.
Yes, but now it will. Correct?
No, we-
If the ALT is put on the checklist, if it's been input, then it would.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that an ALTA is not on the checklist, but, for example, E, final plat, has to show all record lien holders, essentially refers back to the title report, and an ALTA survey would cover those items. So it's, you're kind of
I see what you're
creating.
saying. So the substance is there, although we don't call it out.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at, Lisa. I mean, I'm looking back to Summerhill. You know, we could avoid a lot of issues, maybe not, if we require more of that title report to show up earlier in the process. And I don't know if that is covered in the preliminary plat versus final, how substantively different these items are.
Yeah, and you'll notice on my discretionary list, I have added language at both the preliminary plat checklist or preliminary plat requirements and final requirements, a title report at both levels, current within 30 days, and all easements of record on the plat.
Correct. And that's
And
what I-
that is discretionary to respond to our most recent
Yes.
history.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at, is it seemed like we don't call, to your point, we're not calling out an ALTA survey, but the substance is there, but we
Yes.
don't call it. Okay.
For my edification, ALTA survey, I should know what that is, but remind me.
So essentially, it's a survey completed, I'm gonna Gina should really be answering
I'm
this
not a
question.
surveyor, so
But-
I'm
but a
not,
sur-
you'll do the
but
same as I
essentially,
will.
it's a survey that shows what is in verbiage on a title report. You can see it
Yeah.
on a plan. It's effectively what it is. So you'll see all the easements, and if it's not an easement that is defined by a meets and bounds description, it would at least note it off to the side in another section. So that you could say, well, there's a Rocky Mountain Power easement. I don't know, I can't read a meets and bounds description to the inch and the foot, but I can at least see it now on the plat. Kevin could actually answer it best, but I don't know. Kevin, did I do it justice?
Well, I think we do have a lot to cover. so maybe if we could
Never mind.
just-
We got off topic.
Yeah, I think we have a lot to cover, and we can get into those details if we really want
No,
the next round.
no, you've answered my question, Lisa.
Okay.
Thank you.
One other thing too, that I didn't mention, and that is, in a sense, this is a pilot project that these developers have put together into state code. And it's gonna have some wrinkles, and it's gonna have some snafus, and it will be addressed as you move along, both at the city level and even at the state level. So,
Lost you.
Go to the other mic.
It must not be.
Go to the mic at the end of the table.
It's like a wire that,
While we're waiting for her, I think what Spencer's saying is exactly the same concern that I had. Overall, it's a lot less involvement. It seems like it's a streamlined process. So my concern is I know we have to do this by law, but what are the issues that may arise because of this? And so when he talks about this Alta survey, I'm going, yeah, I think there does need to be like a really,
that's what I'm just getting at, like,
Yeah.
to make our application checklist tight.
right.
So what you're saying is just require the ALTA at preliminary, so we have all that information, or require it with final? I mean,
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I just want to make sure that
No,
the substance of an ALTA survey is there. You know, I'm trying to think ahead, like, you were trying to avoid Summerhill. I could tell by this draft. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure. Why didn't Lisa just call out an ALTA survey?
well, we could, because then we'll know what we're getting.
Right, I mean,
And it
that
has
is
to be,
that is
and it
a
has to be
standard.
stamped by a licensed engineer, like,
And since we only have so many checklists, I will say, when I review it, and maybe Kevin, but I'm looking on the title report for the easement, and then I have to go look and make sure it's there. And many of my comments are always saying, show this easement, show this
well,
easement,
and that's,
and they
so
don't.
if you're already doing that, I almost want to just make your staff's life easier. If the state's going to mandate this on us, and again, I can wear both hats on this. I'm a developer by trade, that's no secret. To me, I think this, from my city council hat on, if the state is mandating a streamlined process, then we need to make it easier on staff to quickly review an application and save your time.
Yeah, I actually like it at preliminary because.
I agree.
Final may be too late when we start
Right.
finally seeing where
I mean,
these are. so
if we're gonna
let's
learn
start-
lessons, we should do it at preliminary, not final.
Unfortunately, this may be more difficult for the developer because of that, because it makes it, so yeah, you have this limited time, you don't have time to sort through and go, oh, well, they don't have the,
You put the burden back on them to show us everything instead
Yep.
of.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me look at that maybe as part of your conditional motion. We can even add that to have staff look into that and add it if deemed applicable, you know.
and my point along with Spencer's was, what has staff noticed in the past that got caught based on the old system that may fall through the cracks? How do we preventatively work to catch those same things?
Well, that's what we're working on as
Yeah.
staff. Behind the scenes, we have to have our checklist ready in 2 weeks. So we've been, working on this, but now each department is also trying to get Whitney our list of things that need to go on the checklist. And the city engineer has already provided a very detailed checklist for preliminary and final.
Are we using other type 1 cities, larger cities, checklists? Are we kind of bouncing ideas off of other cities to make sure we're not missing anything?
We can hear from our city engineer.
Let me give you
Who's the
1
president?
minute, a short condensed version, but Utah City Engineers Association, I'm on the board, they tasked us, we had a pretty good head start with developing a checklist for any of the cities in Utah that wanted to use this list. So we got lists from, the contributions were Lehigh City, Bluffdale, Centerville, Layton, Grantsville, several others. And we condensed we didn't take any review items away, but we just kind of put all of those together. And that's what we're using, and that's available to any city in Utah that they can take a look at.
Awesome.
I'm trying to make your life easier, Lisa.
Thank you.
I'd rather take 5 or
I
10
do-
minutes more here to get it right.
Yeah. Good point. Okay.
Now we got an echo.
So
This,
disable the mics that are.
Hold on.
she disabled the mic.
We are
me go back,
definitely getting echo feedback between the two mics.
Now is it echoing? Yep.
We're getting feedback on our end because she's on a phone.
I'm not sure, it's hard to tell.
We don't need to see
Lisa-
you if you just want to walk into another room.
What was that?
Yeah, we don't need
Like,
to
I
be
don't
on
need to see
video.
her
If she just wants to call
walk
in.
into, yeah, another
Yeah,
room.
because we have
Okay.
the red line up in
How
front of you.
about,
Might need her.
I'm not sure which one is the room and which one's her phone, but
Oh,
I,
you could just mute.
I,
Oh, yeah.
well, this one's muted. Which,
Well, can she just turn off the one?
I could just disconnect the one, well, now she's gone, I don't know if, can you still hear us, Lisa?
We can't hear you.
So she probably got her phone muted.
Maybe.
Why
Oh,
we
was
can't
that what?
Swap the mute.
Yeah,
swap
I'm
the
not,
mutes.
I'm gonna mute this one, and I can ask her to unmute, I can't unmute her
unmute
myself. I can't unmute it, I can ask her to unmute.
Oh,
Is
see,
what I
that's
just
her.
did.
That's probably your phone, the third one, huh?
Yeah, I can't
you
force
unmute?
to unmute.
Maybe unmute the one.
I can't
can't do that.
unmute herself. She has to unmute one
Hey,
of
while
them.
we're doing that, Lisa, I do have maybe one edit on page 11.
Without?
Yeah.
Got it. Sorry.
Got it, okay.
Done.
Are you proud of me? I made it that far?
I am very proud of you.
So as long as she's not here, one of my questions, and we'll probably get to it down later, but the topic of a public hearing, the planning commission was kind of divided on that. From being out in the audience, sometimes I just felt better if I knew the planning commission knew what I knew before they made their decision. So I do understand that you come and talk and then they have to vote, you know, the way they have to vote, so you feel like they didn't listen to you. But on the other hand, I think it's really hard, as many people as we have come to us, to just say, nope, you can't tell anybody, you'll have to keep all your opinions to yourself. I really prefer the idea of a public hearing at the planning commission, so that if people do, and sometimes somebody does bring in an idea that we'd never thought of or we didn't realize happened. And so I do think you're getting a lot more ideas, not so much ideas as information when you open it up to a public hearing. We get very few large public hearings, so I don't think they're a problem. But I do think if somebody's gonna build something next to you, it's gonna make you feel better if you can come to the planning commission and say, but this is what it's gonna do, you know, and then they can say, but it fits all our criteria, we have to vote for it, or, oh, we didn't realize that, and they can reconsider it. That
Yeah, and I
I
think
feel
the
very
planning,
strongly that we need a public hearing.
the planning commission discussed this. This is one of the discretionary areas. So I should say that preliminary plat review could be even at staff level. So you could have preliminary at staff and final at staff. But the law does allow you to designate another body. So we've taken that discretion and said, let's keep our planning commission in the loop. It's mandated that the community development director or staff approves final. But, so we are keeping planning commission there. The planning commission had that same debate of, you know, they were divided about whether to have a public hearing or not because of all the reasons we've talked about, that, you know, that we really can't take into consideration this public clamor at an administrative level. But they did recognize that sometimes people just want to be heard, or they want to, you know, stay engaged in these pros and cons. So I think that's something certainly that the council can debate and direct staff to change that. We've drafted it in such a way that we can add that back in if necessary. Right now, the draft is no public hearing at the planning commission. That was the recommendation from the planning commission. But we allow for written comment up until the day of the hearing. So, but it's certainly something you can.
I agree with Robin, but for a little different reason, and that is twofold. I watched, when I was a new planning commission member, the Hive go through, and Shaylin was the chair, and she listened to every single person that called in. It was a 12:30, 1 o'clock a.m. all-nighter, but she listened. And I think the lesson learned is, whereas this could be a public hearing process where really you're not gonna, nothing's gonna sway a decision because it's more based off of the code. it at least lets the planning commission know of concerns, so that if there is a valid or what may be an important point that we could change an ordinance, that is considered. So they may say, we can't do anything about it, but maybe we're gonna make a legislative recommendation to the city council to adjust an ordinance. So I think that part of the public hearing process would be important, because we don't mute the public in terms of them giving us substantive feedback for potential changes for the better.
Right. And I'm just opposed to not allowing the public to speak on something, even if it falls within our ordinance. They should be allowed to be heard on something like this, especially if it's impacting their
I know it puts the
neighbors.
planning commission in a tough spot, because like, hey, come give your opinion.
I-
We're not gonna do anything about it.
I know,
But
and
at least maybe there's some narrative that says, hey, this is a public hearing, but we are bound.
Yeah, we've
By
been doing a better
statute.
job of explaining the difference.
Yes.
You know, we do a lot of training, we help the public understand legislative, administrative, and I think even with this statute, it gives us a lot more to say, you know, you understand, this is what we need you
Right.
to speak to. And
But
so we can
at least their
continue.
comments can be taken under advisement or under consideration for future planning decisions and
right.
framework.
And it also helps us to have a feel for where our community's
Yeah.
at on what they want for future growth and development. I think it's a really important process.
So what I've seen is also, it puts the developer on notice of what the neighbors care about. So I have seen them
Yes.
responding to that, even if we have not forced them to administrative or legislative, they have responded. I think Symphony is a great example. The Hive is a great example. So just hearing that clamor may not have any sway on here, but it's out there and they get to hear their voice that way.
Yeah.
So.
Lisa, the way that I read the approach that you took was a sort of split the baby, right? Like, we want to hear from the public, but we want to do it in writing, as opposed to allowing people to come up and speak.
Yes,
directly
that's
to the
correct.
commission.
It was a compromise, but I understand that, you know, the planning commission struggled with that, and I think you're raising some legitimate points of hearing from the public.
And I'm not opposed to the writing, but I think some people just need to say it. They may not be able to write it the way that I just think we need to give them the opportunity to express it whichever way.
Having been the chair of the planning commission when the Hive development went through, I was very careful to have a script, in fact, to make sure I read at the beginning, to let people know upfront what our limitations were, and after we heard from all the public comment, what our limitations were, to try to do the very best that we could to educate the public. Like, we are listening to you, but here is the limitations within which we have to act, right? We can't act outside
Yeah.
of those lines.
And I think that was very helpful.
And
like
I was
I
gonna
said,
say,
it
I
does.
I think that's a good, like a good policy, like you could
Yeah.
train the planning commission to say, hey, here's the new world we're entering into. Let's continue to get feedback from the public, but again, communicate. This is
Yes.
the statutory framework that we're working within.
I would be comfortable with allowing for a public hearing as long as I felt confident that we were training our planning commission, right, that is hearing the comments to really make sure that they're framing that for the public, because I did share a concern with the planning commission's report that came up to us, that it can, if you don't do that, it can create for a lot of confusion and frustration, because you have people coming up and that are making comments, and they feel like they are being ignored and not
That's what I
heard.
said to begin with.
Yeah.
But I think you handled that very well, and I think from seeing the hurt and anger, and after, I think people felt better. So I think by just being able to tell you how they felt, and you being very clear on what and what you couldn't do, did make people at least feel like the city cared. They were trying, but they could only do so much. And I seen, you know, I hate to say Facebook, but I kind of watched the pendulum go back from being so angry and so hurt to not blaming the city for the whole thing. So I think that that was a great example, and you did a great job on that.
Thank you. And the good news is that I trust our staff to be able to
Right.
provide that level of training to our planning commission.
Yeah.
So I think what Shaylin said is, I'm really supportive.
I'm
Do a
really
good job, staff,
supportive.
it's all on you.
Well, I will say that, we are going from 3 public hearings to 1 on our subdivision process. So that's significant, and we can keep the 1 public hearing. I think that's a good compromise. So.
So do we need to modify this language now to incorporate that back?
Yes, I'm keeping a list of
Okay,
amendments. and I'll
help us
let
with
you
our
know.
motion here,
Yeah.
Lisa.
I'll help you.
Lisa, can I ask you a question now? With us authorizing a public hearing, I did think it was interesting that you said that to allow public comment up through the day of the public meeting, and you said in brackets that previously it had to be received sufficiently ahead of time so staff could review it prior to the meeting. Why
That was the written comment.
That was the written comment. Why did you guys change the written comment to not require that it be submitted sufficiently in advance that you could review it?
So as we went through thinking about practically how this is going to work, because I did want the written comment so that staff can look at it and put it in the packet, but the problem is our packets don't go out till Friday. So how's the public going to give us information on something they don't even really know too much about yet, because they've got notice that we're going to have it, but there's no report for them. And then the other practical point is, even if it's in your code, people are going to come that day, or what happens is they call us the day before or they call us the day of. That's why I always leave my schedule open on city council and planning commission days, because, you know, if you have something controversial or you don't even know it is, you get a lot of phone calls. So it didn't seem practical to, you know, and if somebody shows up that day, we are going to accept written comment.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. I was trying to look out for you guys, because I was thinking if we're gonna allow people to come talk, I want to get you guys
Ideal world.
enough time, but now that makes sense.
Yeah, we want to give you enough time to prepare the staff
Yeah.
report,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
yeah.
I believe Lisa can unmute herself now.
Oh, okay. Are you with us, Lisa Baskin?
I am back. Can you hear me?
Okay. It's all yours. We've been talking about the public hearing. We are going to add back in the public hearing at the planning commission level. So wherever we left off with you, you can pick up.
Okay. I was able to hear that discussion, and I understand that says I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, I'm not going to read the screen. Okay, so it's talking about, as I said before, when you look at, we were at the general responsibilities of the applicant and what the applicant has to do at 1501-061. That's where we were. And that the community development director is the one that conduct the completeness check. It's entirely within that individual's hands or his designee, his delegee. And the planning commission is the one that can make the approval. The idea of having the public hearing there is allowed under the state code. You can have up to 1 public hearing, and so you're completely still in compliance with the new state code. There's language that if you don't do this appropriately and the subdivision plat is recorded inappropriately, you haven't gone through this process, it's void. The plat is void, and the transfer of land is voidable. And that is language that was placed in by the state code as well. So that's in your provision. And then, again, as I said, the appeal cycles aren't very clear. So at section 1501-110, there's language there in subsection F that basically says, an appeal during the 4th or final review from the dispute arising from this improvement or ordinance review shall comply with the code provisions, which has those 30 days, 10 days. It's not quite clear, but you would be in compliance by having referenced state code at this point. And then we address what the authority is of the staff. The staff, as the community development director, has the authority with staff to approve the final. I overheard your discussion too, that it's really important that staff advise the planning commission on the preliminary. And that is understood and is provided, I believe, in the language that the comments will come up from the staff and the director to the planning commission. Again, it says here, I'm jumping around just a bit, but if you look at section 1501-130, public hearings. Of course, we don't change any of the requirements for your public hearings regarding the others, the commercial, the industrial, and so forth. But in subsection 11, which is new, it says, if the land use authority chooses to hold one public hearing to consider a preliminary land use, notice of that hearing shall be provided in compliance with your code and state code. So that's a simple change. The administrative land use authority chooses to hold one public hearing. It's a very simple fix there on 11. Then the residential subdivision at 1502002, this was Lisa Romney's addition, and I think it's helpful, is even though you don't typically like to refer to Senate bills or legislation in your city code, because this is sort of a pilot and because it's very unique to what the changes are, we reference it there in the residential subdivision. And then there will still be concept plans for all commercial subdivisions. We've got that provided.
If I could just step in on that, I think for clarification, as we've mentioned, these changes only apply to single-family subdivisions or duplex or townhome or any combination of those. So I've added a definition in here of residential subdivision to refer to that. And then other subdivisions I refer to as commercial. I couldn't decide whether to go residential and non-residential, but commercial includes commercial, industrial, or multifamily, even though typically we think of multifamily as residential. So if you can think of better terms, let me know. But right now, we're saying the new regulations apply to residential subdivisions, but commercial subdivisions, including multifamily, are going to follow our old code, or, our existing code.
Well, so here's the question. You could have an 8-plex townhome development that would fall under this category, but a 4-unit
Yes.
that would fall under the commercial.
Right.
If it was a 2-story, right?
Right. Now, initially, we were going to have the same procedure. My ultimate recommendation is to have the same procedure for all of our subdivisions, because it's so much easier for staff and the public and noticing and everything. But once we saw how detailed and hard and complicated these changes were, I sort of walked back and said, you know what, let's not change everything right now. Let's just change what the state is mandating we change, and we're going to leave the rest of it as is. So our commercial and multifamily will require concept plan. Residential, we're not allowed to. But I did make...
To my point, though, you could, an 8-townhome development may have a much more streamlined process than a 4-unit, a 4-plex type of a unit that has a first and a second floor that would fall in.
Yes, depending, but multifamily may also not require a subdivision. It may just be a site plan or...
That's true.
So if it's just one, this is only for
Yes,
subdivision.
that's true. Thank you.
But I do want to, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with the discretionary, but, so on leaving things the same, we did make a change on the public hearing so that it was the same at preliminary. But if we're going to add back in the public hearing for residential, we're going to add back in the public hearing for commercial.
Yes.
Stay the same.
Yes.
Okay. All right, sorry, Lisa, just wanted to clarify that, so we're...
That's very good. That's great. So when we get to 1503, this is your preliminary plat, and it spells out review cycle 1 and review cycle 2. And the language is there in front of you. I think it's pretty straightforward. The initial review is completed by the director within 15 days, and an incomplete one prohibits the cycle from proceeding. You review, respond, you go back and forth, review, give response, then they respond back, and then there's the final reply. And that's the process. And so that's spelled out in that provision. And then again, as you'd mentioned, Lisa added 1503-044, the written public comment. I do have one question about that, Lisa, and that is, you allow written comment up to the day of the meeting. What happens if somebody comes to the meeting and says, I want to submit my written comment, and then they try to speak?
Well, I think that's going to change since the council's recommending a public hearing, so I will likely just take that out, and we'll just have a public hearing, because we allow written comment What I always try to be careful of, though, is if there's a lot of, written comment after the public hearing, I'm always concerned about that due process for the developer, because we've had the public hearing, but then we continually have these little public hearings later, and we really are gonna have to stop that,
Well,
because
that's
the
what-
state law only allows one public hearing.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Could you say that the public comment period ends
Yeah.
at the time the council closes the public hearing?
Or the land use, the planning commission, yeah.
Sorry,
So actually, we
thank you.
should say that, yeah, public
Once the
comment
planning
ends.
commission closes it, because that will be on record, once they close it, that's when the public comment period ends.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to
Yeah,
mandate
that's
that.
what you're going to have to do.
We've had a tendency to extend or continue the public hearing, and that probably should end as well.
Well, we can't, we can, by statute, we can only have one public hearing, and we
Yes.
can't even continue it.
Yeah, there won't be a continuance of the public hearing.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's both planning commission and city council level, right?
Well, remember, it doesn't come
It
to
doesn't
city
come to
council
city
anymore.
council, that's why I was,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why I reframed my comment, yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to, but the commercial ones will continue to come to you.
yeah.
Okay, now we'll go back to, the next section was 15.04, and that's your final plat review cycle, and that's got the requirements spelled out there. What the, sort of the preamble, it's got to be complete, it will prevent review if it's not complete, and then what that cycle entails. And at that point, the final plat review and approval is done by your community development director. That is where the city council has been legislatively protected. At the same time, you have no administrative authority on this process. This is something that the Utah League of Cities and Towns, I think, tried to negotiate during the session. And it's possible that in the future, you as individual city council people, if you felt strongly about something like that, you might be able to go up to the legislature and argue independently of the league of how you feel about those particular situations where, or it's being negotiated, but you may not agree with how it is. The review by the city attorney is there, security for public improvements. Most of this stuff then is standard. It hasn't had many changes. It is interesting that subdivision plat amendments, your city attorney has chosen to treat those similarly to a residential, so that you've got the same requirements for plat amendments.
Yeah, so if I could step in, just add a disclosure on the difference. This is a discretionary change. As I mentioned, on plat amendments, currently, plat amendments go directly to the city council, and the city council holds a public hearing. But plat amendments are usually pretty minor, and so this draft recommends that plat amendments go to the community development director if it's residential. If it falls under this whole umbrella, those should go to the community development director, because he, has jurisdiction to approve final plat, if it was a plat. So I think plat amendments on those should also go to the community development director. But then I did leave in that final, or plat amendments for commercial would continue to come to the city council. But
That's exactly what she did. That's the way it reads, exactly.
But
And as you
minor
say-
subdivisions, the recommendation is that regardless of it, whether it's commercial or residential, it should be decided by the community development director. Because these are subdivisions of 3 lots or less. And that's also a change. Right now, it's 2 lots or less. But even a 3-lot subdivision is fairly minor. By state law, I think you can go up to 10. Okay,
So
they're
this-
blazing over.
No, so the minor subdivision submittal is similar to the final plat, correct, Lisa?
Yes,
Okay, and so it goes to your community development director.
yes.
Very good. That's the review, that's the summary that I've got going through the actual ordinance. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Do you care to give yourself any flexibility for any reason to go back to the planning commission? Where a community development director may say, I'm gonna maybe consult with the planning commission on this.
I don't believe the statute allows us to
Okay,
go on final.
that's kind of what I was wondering, but But you were kind of saying you've set it up that way.
Oh, I see, you mean on the discretionary ones, like
Yes, on the
plat
discretionary.
amendments or minor.
Yes. So most times the community development director may say, yeah, this is easy, I'll handle it. But maybe we give the discretion to the community development director to say, I'm not sure on this one, I'd like to take it to planning commission just to bounce it off. I've got noxious fumes coming from the west side, maybe I should chat with some other people before I make a decision.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I'd have to think about that.
Okay.
I'd rather just have it go.
I'm just saying, does that maybe help a process? If it doesn't, that's fine, but,
My hesitancy is I don't like to have that sort of subjective, ooh, I'm going to put you in a
Yes.
different route than you.
Correct.
So like I'm saying, I'd rather just have it the same way for everybody.
okay,
But
that's completely
that's my
understandable.
thought.
And the other thing is to, the other thing is to allow it to go back to the planning commission creates another review cycle in a sense. And you're limited on the number of review cycles.
Okay.
So Lisa, I know your time is limited, but I was wondering if you could respond in this draft. The city, I know by statute, the city has 15 business days to respond to an applicant, but I don't think there's a timeline for the applicant. But in our draft, we do say that the applicant has to respond within 20 days. It seems like there's some pros and cons on that. Do you want to speak to the benefits of putting a time clock on the applicant as well, or do we even care when they get back to us?
Well, it seems to me that's fair play, right? If you're going to have a timeline, and the whole idea was to streamline the process, then the idea that the developer is also cooperative and trying to expedite is only fair.
I agree with that concept.
I do too.
I do
Because
too.
then, if a developer doesn't get back within the 20 days, it will reset the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they're gonna make enough changes, or if there's deliberation on it, they may say, wait, you're gonna make us come back? And we're gonna say, hey, it's a really streamlined process. Yeah, shouldn't be too hard.
Okay.
You should have everything ready to go for the most part.
Just the discussion Lisa and I were having, it's okay if I share it, is just related to some of our developments that have occurred in Centerville that we're not quite sure, especially the smaller developer, they're not even developers. They have some property they're wanting to develop. That 20 days really says that development's not happening, because there's no way they might be using friends or, to respond back. So
And this kind
the
of goes back
development
to my
doesn't
point
occur.
earlier about these kind of mom and pop situations where,
Sure.
are we going to require an ALTA survey? Well, it sounds like we are now. And somebody may say, wait, what is an ALTA survey? I don't know what that is. Well,
We're not
But
disagreeing
it
with
just-
sorry.
Sorry, I mean, this is helpful hearing, because I think it just puts them back to the beginning, which I'm okay with, because then they just go back
Gives
and
us
we
more
get more
opportunity.
time. So
Correct.
but what I do want is a timeline, because as soon as they have a completed application, they obtain vested rights. And
Yeah.
that's where I want a definite cutoff for,
That's what
and
They're
that's what I'm saying,
delaying.
you gotta have to go back. If you don't make the 20 days, go back. So you have another 15 days and another 15 days at worst case. It's
yeah,
hard.
and I think we did put
You
in,
can't get back in 20 days and you're delayed by 30 days, that seems, doesn't seem like crazy town.
That makes sense.
okay,
That's great.
okay.
All my developer friends may be calling me later, I don't know. Nobody's listening to this conversation anyway, so.
But it'll be in the newspaper.
Could be, that's okay.
Okay, does anybody have any more questions for Lisa Baskin? I do have some other comments that, Lisa, if your time is limited, you don't necessarily have to stay for, or our discussion, but are there any other?
I think that Lisa Romney can handle whatever questions. She's been very involved, along with Whitney, in the most recent versions of this. It was been a pretty quick turnaround, so she's very familiar. And I wanted to publicly thank you, Lisa, for you're working so hard on this as well.
Oh, well, thank you for saving us.
Hey, Lisa Baskin, thanks for joining us then. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. I think I'm going in to have my discussion now on this very topic.
Okay.
Okay,
Talk to you later. Thank you very much.
thank you.
So what I'd like like to do, I know this has been lengthy, but I want to make sure that we've gone over I went through the ordinance again and went through a list of things that I think we need to fix. So a conditional approval, knowing that this is a work in progress and we'll probably be coming back to you in a few months with other changes. And then make sure that I highlight for you the discretionary items. So let's go through the discretionary items first. Again, I told you the minor subdivision is now 3 lots or less, rather than it used to be 2. We talked about the planning commission. I did add in at conceptual and preliminary plat, although not required by statute, that we are going to require a legal description and title report. And now we're going to add an ALTA, what is it, ALTA survey?
Yeah, probably, Kevin, Alta ASTM, would you want to define it more past just an ALTA survey, or do you want to get into the specifics of what type of ALTA survey we want?
I think that if you put an ALTA survey, you have to, there's a bunch of different requirements on an ALTA survey.
Correct.
So depending on which requirements you select, the ALTA survey could be a couple $1,000 or it could be $10,000 or $20,000. So
Yes.
we got to go through the list of what we want to require on the ALTA survey.
And that's why I think that's a good discussion the two of you have.
Okay.
And so it gets back to your point. You
Right.
can almost have the same checklist under that, effectively, in substance, have what we want out of an ALTA survey without it being an ALTA survey. Does that make sense, what I'm saying, Kevin?
Brant?
You
is it
include the checklist items that are important for us as a city and for Lisa's review of that when they do a preliminary
But
plat.
I like saying, no, we want this, a surveyor to do this and give it to us.
So you're
And this is
saying-
what we
Well,
want.
what I'm getting at is ALTA survey, checklist items can be different, to Kevin's point. And so if they're gonna change over, if the definition of that type of ALTA survey changes over time, then our definition changes with it, and I don't want that to happen. Does that make sense?
Well, I like the idea of requiring an ALTA survey with certain,
Boxes
we
checked.
tell them which
Okay,
box.
and I like that approach.
And if you can give staff
That's
discretion
fluid,
over
but the
that.
code says it's an Alta survey, but
Yes.
it's fluid based on
Okay,
the application.
great.
Sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. You and I had a conversation about ALTA surveys about a year ago. Is it still just Park City that requires that?
As far as I know.
As far as you
I
know.
don't think that's changed.
I know you're not
But
keeping track of every city, but,
but that's all I know. I would dare say there's a number of them out there.
okay.
You can almost see Summit County, Park City
I'm
requiring.
fine
could
with
see-
it because I watched a somewhat became a civil suit unfold because, they didn't require one. Well, the city did not require one for a single lot development and because there was a dispute on the boundary line, it became an issue. So,
And we want to avoid these.
yeah.
Yes, I think that's great. Okay, just a few more discretionary or things that staff added because we knew we had some issues in our code. So another change is a clause that said we are no longer, we're not going to give interest on our bonds. And this was a discussion I had with our finance director, who said, hey, a lot of cities don't provide interest. So I asked around, and basically, no one provides interest. They just say, look, this is an administrative cost of monitoring your bond. So I added that language in, and we'll work on changing our forms, because the interest calculation is a nightmare, because we don't pay it when they're in default. And a lot of these bonds are in default, so we have to calculate interest when they're not, and it changes monthly. So anyway, Nate will be very happy to have that clause in there. I didn't tell him, let me share the name.
Watching.
His hero.
Actually, he's in the.
Very good. And again, I did, in my opinion, the plat amendment and the minor plat amendment, it's not squarely addressed in state law, but in my opinion, if either of those items or applications fall within this definition of residential subdivision, I really think we're subject to these time clocks. So I don't want to play the game of saying, hey, you didn't address this in plat amendments. I'd rather just follow the law. And that's why I'm saying in both the plat amendments and the minor, we're going to subject ourselves to those time clocks if it's residential. Okay, so I think, we're trying to be as transparent as possible, what we changed and what you have discretion on. We might have missed a few things, but those are the big ones. So staff is recommending that you hold a public hearing on this, but we're recommending approval subject to the changes that we talked about today, as well as a few other minor changes. So we'd like to change subdivider throughout. There's 88 versions of subdivider that we need to change to applicant. I wasn't going to change them, but people have made a good point. We might as well be consistent. So we will change those 88 references to subdivider to applicant throughout. Also suggested that we now eliminate his or her in our code for obvious reasons. And so we'd like to just say, rather than his or her designee, just say or designee. That's a great suggestion. As Council Member Summerhays pointed out, we do need to change the with to without. That's a big difference in that one section.
It's a great U2 song.
I would like the option to review the appeal procedures. I know we went through those quickly. I delegated that entire task and I haven't put sufficient time, so if you can also allow staff to make any changes deemed necessary to the appeal provision. We also need to clarify during the review cycle if there's a holiday, how do we handle that? I believe it's defined in state law, but I'd like to check that, because if it's not, because we have some city holidays that our city manager pointed out that are not necessarily state or federal, and that shouldn't be in our 15 days.
Yeah, so you want to change that language if statute allows us to have it be business.
Well, in my opinion, business days.
City business days as a
Right,
defined term.
exactly. Business days, in my opinion, excludes holidays, but what do we do with these local versus
Correct,
federal?
exactly. But so we'd create our own definition of holiday based
Yeah.
on that, yeah.
Okay, and, and I have to fix some change, and I would just say, and then add the ALTA survey with city engineer and city attorney reviewing the list of what we want to check, adding a public hearing at preliminary plat, and allowing staff to fix any formatting or typographical changes throughout. And then we can refer back to that after your public hearing.
Mayor, we have not opened the public hearing, correct?
We have not opened the public hearing. Yeah. So we need to do a public hearing tonight if we're doing this by February 1st?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
recommended.
I'll make a
So,
motion to
there
open
you
the public
go.
hearing unless staff or otherwise, or if anybody feels otherwise.
I'll second that.
Do we have to?
Were you done, Lisa? Sorry, I know that was our lengthy list. I'm sure some council member was taking notes.
Yes. Oh, no, he just asked if I was exhausted. I said, no, I'm excited.
It's the opposite, fueling her.
So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing related to municipal code amendments, subdivision ordinance updates.
I'll second that.
What was your question?
I was just wondering, do we have to make a motion to open the public hearing?
No, we don't.
You could just
For years, I just operated without a motion. But it started happening, so I just let it go.
And I just did it because everybody else was doing it.
We staff,
2 years?
We've been told multiple times.
2 years of that?
The reason that I asked as the chair of the
Holy
planning commission,
cow.
that I would just open the public hearing, so I was, anyway, that was just for my.
Do you have to do a motion to
It
close the
doesn't matter.
public hearing?
I asked Lisa about it, and she says, no, we don't have to.
We obviously need some more education,
I said,
training.
yeah, because your predecessor law firm told me that as well, too. So I got 2 legal opinions on it.
No, I've had attorneys ask me, don't you know you don't have to have a motion to open the public hearing? I said, yes, I've said that multiple times.
Obviously,
He is the chair of
Councilmember
this
Summerhays
meeting.
is not listening.
So we're doing motions tonight, but from now on, I'm just going to open them.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Grudgingly now.
So the public hearing is now open for municipal code amendment subdivision ordinance updates, Title 15. Anybody that wants to comment on that, please come to the microphone. either here or on Zoom? Don't see anybody here. Is anybody even on Zoom with us? Okay. A motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye. Next meeting.
All right, so, we've had big discussion on it. Do we have further questions for staff before, I take a field of motion on this? Okay, we're gonna need help possibly on this motion, right, Lisa? So you wanna write out for us, or you want somebody to just start shooting and you're filling in and?
Lisa should just pass her notes down to Brian or Gina, maybe.
I don't think you want these notes.
Oh.
I'm happy to try and do it, Lisa, just, oh, okay.
Don't know if they're gonna be helpful.
Wow.
Show your work, Lisa.
Lisa,
Can I just reference
Lisa can
this?
give it and we can just,
I just did.
I was gonna say, we
Yeah.
can, can we make the motion?
Can we just, yeah, can we just enter this into the record?
Yeah, can we, as directed by staff?
Oh, there's
Well,
some other
give it a
things,
shot.
there's
That's
some,
that one.
there's some other things, right?
Okay, do you want me to read them all, one by one?
Sure.
Is that, or do you have?
We'll make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve the changes and corrections to Title 15. Is that
Subject to.
subject to, including the ability to hold a public hearing at the planning commission level for preliminary subdivision plots. And then additional changes and corrections as defined by Lisa, with the inclusion of an ALTA survey with checked items as defined by staff. And then I'm just,
And
In
further-
consultation with the city engineer?
yeah, in consultation with the city engineer, I like that.
And further direction for staff to make any formatting or typographical
Or,
corrections.
yeah, non-substantive changes. Did I get it? Is
That's
that,
all?
is that acceptable?
Yes.
Does that cover everything you need?
I don't know, I
I
didn't.
swear there was a lot more.
But she referred back.
I
mean,
just
do you want me to read
No.
it back into
So
the
what I
record?
did is I took the things that she had handwritten in and said those verbally and then referenced her list.
Awesome.
Nice work.
Okay.
All right, second to that motion?
Second.
Great. Further discussion? Okay, Spencer, Councilman Summerhays, start to vote, the vote going to the right.
Aye.
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 All right, that passes unanimously. Okay.
Thank you, council. I know that was very lengthy, but it was,
I think
It's gonna be a big
I
task.
think we owe you a huge thank
Yeah,
you.
we
That was a
do.
lot of
That's a
work.
lot of work.
That was heavy
it
lifting.
was a huge team effort, as we mentioned, so.
Well, thank
Thanks
you.
to Whitney and Lisa.
Guess what? We got another municipal code amendment. Item number 2, this is a public hearing matter on municipal code amendments. Impact fee ordinance updates. Lisa, do you need a break or
I
ready
to get the other one.
to dig in?
She was excited. See, she hasn't lost her.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
She's got an adrenaline rush. Keep it going.
the impact fee ordinance change has been on my list for quite some time. We've been trying to redo our subdivision ordinance, and one of those is taking the provisions in our subdivision ordinance regarding impact fees and just creating a new title for those, because it is its own animal. So this ordinance amendment proposes to repeal Chapter 8 of our subdivision ordinance, and it'll be nice to do this at the same time, because I can just take them out and then create a new Title 15. So we've adopted our impact fees. We have a culinary water impact fee, a park impact fee, and our drainage impact fee. We've adopted those by standalone ordinances. And when I say that, I mean, we never codified them or put them in our code. So if somebody wants to know what our impact fees are, or support or something, they have to call the city and say, where's this impact fee ordinance? And then we, provide them with it through a grandma request. So I would like to have them on our municipal code online, so people can just look at them and pull them up. But those standalone ordinances have been adopted over time, and they each, for instance, address appeals or accounting or challenges, and they're slightly different, which we shouldn't have different appeal procedures for different impact fees, just depending on when they were adopted. And so I just taken all those administrative provisions and made them uniform. I used our most recent version, compared them with the state law, because some of them were outdated. Because we have, almost every year, we have changes to impact fee statutes. And so they've been updated towards the state law, at least effective as of yesterday. So I think this will be a much better product, but we have not redone our impact fee analysis or our impact fee calculations or any of that. I wanted to be very careful because there's a lot of statutory provisions on, the support for your impact fees, and I didn't want to touch that. So what I've done is just, we refer to those impact fee studies by reference, and I've just said, anything in these attachments, dealing with administrative matters are repealed and addressed in Title 20, but the substance of the studies that support our impact fees are in the attachment.
So do we have, in section 20, or is there an impact fee table?
Our impact fee table is in our fee schedule.
Okay.
So and what we do is we actually adopt the impact fee analysis and the impact fee facilities plan, and then we say, but we're going to actually adopt our impact fee by resolution, because we just can't go above what the study supports. We can have an impact fee that's less, and some of ours.
Right, but you can't go over
But
that.
you can't go over, and so we adopt it by resolution, and that's where our impact fees are.
When was the last time we changed or updated our impact fees?
One of I think it's 2013, 2016, and 2018, and so yes,
One of it,
Way
it's
outdated.
2014.
2014.
I think
yes.
it's
So that's
13,
that's
14,
scary,
18,
which means we're
really scary.
underfunding.
Yes, they need to be updated. When I put that money in my budget every year, I always talk about updating our impact fee studies, but we just haven't done it. So I would recommend, you really should be looking at them annually and with a full study every 5 years.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that was
Because if
gonna
we're
be
not-
my recommendation, is every 5 to 7.
To Mike's point, he talks about our water
Mm-hmm.
fee, and we update that, but then you let it sit, and then you're behind already. So to me, yeah, that has to be an annual update. So staff, if we can get that on our impact fee schedule, or.
Yeah, well, it does cost, it's costly to have your impact fee. So I think
Right.
5 years is
Well,
fine, but make
I'm
sure they're
saying
within.
table calculation. I guess, to your point, though, you'd have
Have
to
to
do
have the
redo your
study.
analysis to
Right,
go
to
above
support
it.
that.
And you have to spend the money in 7, is it 7 years,
Does an
Kevin?
impact fee analysis could we direct, I mean, this is on topic but off topic. Can you direct an impact fee analysis to provide flexibility for inflation adjustments? So that you can refer back to your impact fee analysis that refers back to inflation adjustments, and therefore you could do it annually.
I don't know if you necessarily need to do that, because generally you adopt by resolution lower than what the study calls for, and so if you wanted to make changes
Well, I just want to make sure that.
each
we
year, I
as a
think you would have
city-
flexibility to do that. But first, our impact fees, just since they're so outdated, we've had so many changes, we just need to start from scratch.
I understand that, but if we're going to start from scratch and that analysis
But what I'm-
is set, I want to have the ability to say, okay, well, now if it costs more to do a park impact fee or whatever else it might
But
be.
what I'm saying is, it could be $20,000, right? The impact fee could be $20,000 per unit, but you're not gonna adopt 20,000. You're gonna say it's 5,000 for that
Why
impact
not?
fee. Okay, let's do it.
No, I'm just, I'm
I was
asking
gonna
a
say,
legitimate
I haven't
question.
seen it done that way. The sewer board adopted what it cost, like what was recommended in the capital
Kevin correct us,
facilities.
But I don't think I've ever seen impact.
Like, to me,
adopted
it's
for
like, shouldn't
recommended,
a
'cause it's
developer
cost
have to
prohibitive.
pay their fair share? That's the question.
Yeah, so typically you would do an impact fee every 5 to 7 years. Because you have to prove the projects that you're building are for future development, so.
Right.
It's completely different, I know you know this, but it's completely different than your capital facilities plan, that we're getting the rate increases and that we need them for our street reconstructions and replacing our water lines. And so it is, sometimes it can go the other way, like, okay, we update the impact fee study and we just completed a big project, well, now our impact fee goes down. So it is, you gotta be careful. I mean, a general rule of thumb is every 5 to 7 years, you would redo your impact fee, and you'd show
I
the
just don't want
developer.
the impact fee to fall below what it's going to actually cost us.
Kevin,
don't
I'm
want
not sure if I
underfunded.
remember correctly, but do they include an inflationary amount in the cost estimate of the projects coming up? You kind of do in your master
I
plan.
think that you could include that, yes. I
So you
thought-
might
so you have
already
that-
be somewhat calculated.
Exactly, it might be embedded into it.
Yeah.
But it has been a little while, I know, for storm drain, culinary water.
Yeah.
We've been updating the master plans, capital facilities plans, but we
What I'm saying, though,
separated those.
is that if Summerhill Lane was based off of an old drainage impact study, we're not collecting the right amount to really,
Yeah, so the challenge we have, and I think we're,
from an impact fee, obviously,
Right.
they're paying for the improvements themselves, but from an impact fee basis,
but spending the money within 6 years is probably the most challenging part, right? Generally, the easiest way is to tie it to a bond. So, for example, let's talk about the water tank. Let's say we bond for it, not because we don't have the money, but you can actually tie, we have that, that's a replacement, so that tank doesn't count, because that's a replacement of an existing tank. But if it's a new tank, then you bond, your bond payments are tied to that impact fee. That's the easiest way to do it. But we're scrambling, and that's why I think the state has something this year, a bill pertaining to this, because a lot of cities are spending it outside the 6 years, and some cities are now getting in trouble for spending it outside the 6 years. So tying it to a bond or some payment is the cleanest way to do it. We'd have to do that capital facilities plan and just.
or
see where
some
it goes.
stand-in calculation where you could treat it as if it were a bond of the time, and just have a different calculation.
Potentially.
Okay.
I mean, you could tie it to if we have, which is the great thing about Centerville is we don't have a lot of debt, right? So we don't have these bonds to tie to, which is great. But you can always use it for a structure that was built a while ago, and this is now our bond payment. But anyway, there's different approaches, but we do need to do the capital facilities plan and just look at the whole thing again.
From a procedural standpoint, coming new to this process, so we think that we need to update our impact fee study. Do we just say to you, staff, we would like you to put this on your to-do list, and then it just goes onto your plate? Is that the way that works?
So yeah, so it costs money, but you can
It'll be
use.
a part of our budget discussion.
You can actually use
Yeah.
impact fees to pay for an impact fee study. So we can use culinary impact fees to pay for the culinary study. So it's not as if it's coming from some other source, but I don't know what we have in those balances.
But typically, we hire outside
We
consultants.
hire outside, and it's
I don't know if
20,
you know the
40,000.
notorious land use attorney Bruce Baird, but he said, give me any impact fee ordinance and I can challenge it. And so he, the way you have to provide the analysis is very detailed. And so, yes, we've done one, we did our park impact fee update. It was just an update reanalysis. We did that in-house. The other ones, the culinary water and others require quite a bit of analysis, but.
I think
I
that's
guess-
a little bit of our challenge is we're mostly built-out city, so we don't have a lot of growth, which wouldn't justify certain impact fees.
Correct, because
So-
somebody could
We're
arguably
just
say, well, wait,
maintaining.
what impact are we creating?
Because we have a certain standard we create, like parks, for example. We've created a certain standard for so many acres per resident. Now, we can't increase that level of service without, we have to go through an impact fee study analysis to justify that increase in service, but you're putting a lot of that pressure on, Kevin's
Do you
standing.
have a
he's correcting me.
do you have a life safety, is there such a thing as a life safety impact fee?
We had a public safety impact fee at a previous city, but it was challenging to spend. So, it was really challenging.
I was just saying, if you're increasing population,
It's
that would
hard,
mean you'd have a greater
Facilities.
population to service.
trying to buy radios or things like that became really challenging, but it has to be tied to the new officer or
Right,
new
yeah.
growth. And that justification's really hard.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was gonna agree, so Brant's spot on. The first thing that they'll ask us to do is they'll ask us to come up with list of projects that are gonna be built within the next 5 to 7 years. Let's say, for example, the west side develops, okay, we need to punch 2 new water lines under the freeway. Okay, those are 2 big projects that we would bond for. We'd put them in the impact fee study, and then that development would in the long run, pay for those two bores under the freeway. So that's the first thing they'll ask us, okay, what projects do you have that are going to be needed for this future development on the west side?
Or another lighted intersection, or
Right.
whatever it might be.
And so it becomes a policy decision for you to decide whether or not, you know, you make the new development pay for this growth, or you spread it out amongst the residents through their rates to pay for this growth, right? So some cities don't have an impact fee at all, so they put the burden on the ratepayers to pay for that impact, but it creates that growth opportunity, right? Because there's not that cost prohibitive impact fee to prevent growth, because they want growth to happen, because there's sales tax or other investments on the back end. So you don't have to charge the full amount, because
And I would argue that there should be a hybrid, because one
That's the
development
method
doesn't
we'll take.
you know, you may say, well, wait a second, you're the next development on the corner, you have to pay for the light. And I, as a developer, will say, wait a second, just because I increase traffic counts by 5,000 more drivers per day, why do I have to pay for the light when there was an existing 95,000 cars per day? I should only have to pay for 5% of it and not 100% of it.
This is probably another discussion for another day we've taken away from the ordinance, but
Okay.
that's just something to think about when we
Yeah.
have these conversations. And to your point, Councilmember Heyman, yes, I mean, that's, during our budget discussion, you could say, we'd like you, I mean, we haven't noted, Nate's not here, but we haven't noted that's something you'd like us to consider, so we'll add it to our budget, our preliminary budget that we discuss. Okay, so I can go back to your ordinance.
Okay. I think I'm done with the, yeah, unless there's,
Sorry, it's Councilmember Summerhays getting
So-
us off on tangents.
no, it's good. It's a good discussion, and yeah, something we should look at our studies, and, you know, I'm glad that this raised that discussion.
No further questions right now? You're comfortable right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I got what I wanted said about it.
All right, we ready to go to public hearing? Make a motion, this is your last time.
Why are you picking on me?
Oh, I didn't even look at Mayor, I knew he was talking to me.
You avoided eye contact, so.
Yeah, exactly. I thought we just moved on. You're saying next meeting. I thought next motion you were moving.
No,
You want to see it through?
we want you to enjoy it
Okay,
tonight.
I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing related to impact fee ordinance updates and
Second.
municipal code amendments.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is now open on municipal code amendments in relation to impact fee ordinance update.
Well, see, that was somebody calling in because the public hearing got officially open.
That's right. Nobody is on Zoom still, right? Okay, motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, back to it. Do we have further discussion or further questions for Lisa?
Do you want me to make the motion?
You betcha. Uh-huh.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-02, amending various provisions of Title 15 subdivisions of the Centerville Municipal Code to repeal impact fee provisions and enact Title 20 impact fees, codifying various impact fee enactments.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Let's start the vote with Councilwoman Heyman.
Aye.
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 That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. I thought we discussed that beyond. Open and public meetings training. Is it you?
It's me.
All right. Jennifer looks forward to this every year.
Well, now that we've got through all the fun stuff, we can go to my boring training.
You should have done yours as a Kahoot, Lisa.
Yeah, seriously.
Just trying to get it done.
She was just trying to get it done. That was.
Okay, so we are required to have an annual training on the Open and Public Meetings Act. So we're gonna do a little Kahoot to do it again.
As the reigning champion 2 years in a row, I will draw and allow someone else to.
Okay, so just a couple,
now.
Never mind, I'm back in.
just
I mean,
a,
last year there was like 3 brands, so I'm not quite sure how that worked out.
just a, just a couple house rules before we get started. You are not required to use your own name. In fact, it's encouraged to use a different name because we're not out here to judge anybody for getting wrong answers or anything like that. So if you haven't done a Kahoot before, you'll just grab your phone or your tablet or another device, and you can scan this QR code that's on the screen, or you can go to www.kahoot.it and put in the game pin. And
Right up here. Oh, there
yep,
it is.
you can scan that QR code. Staff, you're welcome to play as well. The more the
I expect you
merrier.
to win. I will distract Lisa while that happens. So,
So I'll give it a couple minutes for everyone to get joined in here. There were a couple attachments on the packet, so if you decided to do some studying up beforehand, then you may already know the answers, but.
Why am I having issues?
I think I would have won last year, Brand.
What?
Because I'd
Yeah.
been so well trained by our city attorney in my
Right.
planning commission days that I was just like ready to go, and then Brand's just like poaching all the answers.
I know, I feel like Brad cheated.
I've hacked the system.
No, you didn't hack. You just found out the questions prior to.
Been doing this
He
for a
just
while.
knows it.
Well, just remember,
It's
the new one,
feed.
don't you get more points for
So,
quickness? It's not just the right answer.
well,
but
it's a
faster.
combination. It's a combination of
answer
correct
and speed.
answer
We were
and
not
being
told that last
fast.
time.
If you,
Fast.
I know.
if you're fast, but you
knew?
get the
You
wrong
still
answer, you can't just be fast. You have to be right and fast. Okay, like 20 more seconds.
I may not be playing, my phone is dead, I'm charging it, but it's.
Wait, here's a cord.
Oh,
Take the cord.
I,
No, everybody has a cord.
I was gonna say,
I-
can she use my
I'm
iPad?
trying to charge it, it's just taking.
Okay, use your iPad. Do you want, can you?
I don't have an iPad.
Do you want?
Oh, it's like dead.
Yeah, and it just literally died when she said we were gonna do the game.
It's like telling my team that you gotta be off your phone more often.
Easy Summer played last year.
Yeah, so who is that? Is that
I know who that is.
Easy summer. That's like the easiest.
That one's easy. There you go, you just have to enter
Summer
nickname.
Hayes?
You got
yeah.
it.
Summer
Very
Hayes.
original.
Okay, 10 seconds.
I like it.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Okay, never mind. I'll just wait for Robin.
I know, now I'm
A little
getting
hazy.
all jittery.
He's not
You
one
get
every
too,
year.
you get too
That's why I
competitive.
started laughing. I was like,
Oh, it's quick.
I know what his nickname is. Well, that was clever, whoever did me.
Okay, I've got 13 folks on, so,
I'm not sure that's appropriate.
okay, are we good? Are you good, Robin?
Yep,
You're in? Okay, I'm gonna start.
it's really fun to use an iPad, I wished I
Hey.
had one.
There should be 50.
I think the first question will come up
Supposed
as
to
soon as I
pop up.
press start. Oh, there's someone else. Okay,
Big Daddy.
here we go.
Oh my gosh.
Lisa, you know all the answers.
Yeah, this is loaded again.
Okay, first question. What is OPMA an acronym for? Operations of Public Meetings Act? Okay, I won't. Sorry.
I changed my mind.
Okay, we're a little torn.
I changed my mind.
The correct answer is the Open and Public Meetings Act. So just a couple notes about the Open and Public Meetings Act. This act is, I feel like my voice is like really echoey. Does anybody else?
You're on the
hear
mic, Jennifer.
I'm turning it down a little bit. So, the point of this act is, just to ensure that the city, takes its actions and conducts its business and deliberations, regarding the public's business openly. Whenever, this act is enforced whenever there's a quorum present to discuss business. So we mentioned briefly in our new council members in our other meeting that this doesn't apply if there's like a chance social gathering at a party or something like that, as long as you're not discussing business. Like if everybody's at the 4th of July, that's not going to be considered an open meeting, just as long as we're not discussing business or making any decisions. So that's just a quick overview on the Open and Public Meetings Act.
A competitive side is not okay sitting here idly by.
Sorry, I'll talk faster.
Join in now.
Are you not playing?
I am dying inside.
All right.
You can come over here, we'll be partners.
Dingy is currently in the lead
Wow.
with Hazy Summer close second. Okay, next question.
He's played twice.
How far in advance must meetings be noticed to the public? You can enjoy my GIFs better now that you're not playing GIFs. Do you say GIF or GIF?
Isn't the guy say it's Jim? I think the guy who invented it called it Jim.
24 hours. Most of you are correct. Yes.
Even though we do notice 3 days in advance. We do a good job.
We do. That's only out of courtesy to you guys to be able to review the information over the weekend, but we are only required to do it 24 hours in advance. Yes.
Applicants for zoning applications.
Emergency meetings can be called.
Yes, emergency meetings can be called without prior notice. What exactly counts as an emergency, Lisa?
It would
For
be
an
like the fire
emergency
on
meeting?
Very
Fire on the
little.
hill.
Lack
Very
of planning
little.
is not an emergency, although we've used that.
There's a natural disaster.
Yeah, like the fire on the hillside.
Sure.
You have me, Rob, and
We had,
Bill up there or
we
whatever.
had more than a quorum when that fire was going on.
Yeah.
There are some additional noticing requirements for things like public hearings and elections. Those things are noticed further in advance, but just the meeting itself does require 24 hours. And that has to be published, not really important to you guys, but it does have to be published on the Utah Public Notice website and on our city website, and it's posted here at City Hall as well. So, yeah. Okay. Captain Jack just took the lead.
Ooh.
Hazy Summer still hanging in second.
Dingy wasn't fast enough.
Okay, next question. How many members must vote to enter a closed session?
I already answered. Asked and answered today.
No, but I pushed it and it didn't do anything.
I know, I was doing so good and then my phone locked.
distractions that I have going on here. This is more fun, actually.
I know, right?
Good.
Ooh.
Everybody heard that.
Everybody should have got that one. 'cause
Yes, this
Lisa-
is
Lisa gave
2/3
the answer.
of,
That's the staff who got it wrong.
I was gonna say, I won't blame Mike, because Mike had to leave for the closed session.
this is 2/3 of present
Staff will talk later
members.
about getting that wrong.
Members that are here must vote to enter a closed session.
Yeah, so if you had a quorum, but of 4, it would still require 3 votes.
Correct. Ooh. By 2 points. Just took the lead.
Yeah,
Okay, next question.
impressive, Hazy Summer.
Which of the following is not a reason to enter a closed session?
Gotta read all the answers. Gotta read all the answers.
I love the little comment.
I feel bad for Kevin over there. Kevin's like trying to get
Lisa's hiding her phone.
comedic.
Nice. Okay, these ones that are listed are all reasons that we can't enter a closed session. So this was kind of a trick question. Pending or reasonably imminent litigation, character competence, of an individual, deployment of security personnel.
And those are all three, right?
Yep, those are all,
No, there's not another reason.
I don't have the pressure, I get.
Client privilege.
yes, attorney-client
thank you,
privilege,
attorney.
matters of attorney-client privilege. Yep,
Really, ever?
okay. And just so you know, at least for deployment of security personnel and character competency of an individual, we don't take an audio recording of those. We just have the mayor sign an affidavit saying that's the only thing we talked about. For the other things, we do an audio recording and we do take minutes. They just are not made available to the public. So we have them.
The minutes can be made available if there's litigation and the judge can unseal those minutes. So just think, because you're in a closed session, doesn't mean nobody will ever see it. It's still possible those minutes be seen.
Correct. Oops.
But they're not grammable.
I think I just gave away the answer to the next question.
I didn't see it, darn it.
Okay,
It's purple, just so you know.
here we go. Next question. An audio recording of a closed session is not required if the purpose of the meeting is exclusively to discuss, why did I just say that?
Good job, Jennifer. Let's see if they're paying attention.
Oh,
I knew that question was coming up. I shouldn't have said
See
anything.
if they're paying attention.
totally just clicked the wrong one and I was just given the answer. So when you see the one wrong one that pops up, yeah, that was
Gina feels your pain.
I feel like, actually, I did get it right. When I was like, no, I did it right.
Oh, geez.
Oh, guys!
No, this is exactly what you did last year, Jennifer. You did the same thing last year. Two
Hey.
correct answers, like what the crap?
Oh,
There are two correct ones, another trick question, so you had more of a chance to get it
So if I lost
right.
some points because I hesitated. Now you know
I know, I was
Sorry.
hesitating too because of that.
So, for pending or imminent litigation, that's another one, purchase or sale of real estate, Mayor, that's another reason we can go into a closed session.
Yeah.
Those ones, we do an audio recording,
that should be the one. And then as soon as I hit it, I was like, wait, no.
yes. Okay, any questions regarding closed sessions, audio recordings?
Selected that one wrong,
Okay,
totally.
Uh-oh. Wow.
pulling ahead.
Like my competitive side hates
Okay.
my
Next question. Minutes are the official record of a meeting. How long are we required to retain meeting minutes?
Oh, I think I got it
I think you did.
wrong. About time?
That's it?
Give some of the rest of us a chance.
Doesn't it? What color?
Does it? Oh.
What
the
color
I
is he?
wasn't even thinking the color.
Kermit is green, the answer's green.
Permanently is the correct answer. We keep minutes forever.
Falling off the list totally.
Oh, what happened?
Oh.
Does that mean Haley Silver got the answer wrong?
He got it wrong.
That is correct. That is correct, Brent.
I am unable to recover.
Sorry, there's
Hey.
some hazing going on.
True or
Hazing
false?
somewhere, I
City
apologize.
council members may text and email each other while a meeting is convened.
Mine is not clicking.
Is one of you kind of like sabotaging over there?
Bryce is,
He's bringing the bell curve down.
to open a public hearing?
That's what he'll say. It is sabotage.
Fingers must be too clean.
It's still not registering. Fingers are on.
Okay, go, hurry.
We got 100% on that one. Great. So
That means I didn't move anywhere.
obviously, we're not texting or emailing each other during a meeting. In addition to this, we also want to avoid creating an electronic meeting by, having a group email going outside of a regular meeting, having an ongoing message thread or things discussing city business. We want to avoid anything like that until we're actually in an open meeting. So,
No, not a little.
okay, Captain Jack just pulled ahead. What's the minimum number of members that must be present at an anchor location in order to hold an electronic meeting?
The one you all missed last
I
year.
should probably take this question out.
Really?
I don't know, because it's not super,
It's not relevant.
it's not really relevant anymore.
Oh, it's fun. It's a good one to test it. Because, yeah. Because we have used it.
I think I just got this wrong.
Across.
Zero.
Technically, this is 0 because we don't really have a policy, correct?
I thought we did vote.
No, our policy is.
We have a
We
policy.
have a policy that states 0 because of COVID, so you can all meet somewhere else.
Okay,
Now, before, it used to be, I think the policy before was there had to be a majority here,
I think it was one.
or a quorum.
a quorum.
It was one, wasn't it, Robin?
And
One makes.
Yeah, I'm gonna file a formal protest.
Yeah, me too.
But now it's 0,
it's
right?
0
It's
now.
still
We haven't
0.
changed it. So now I'm curious to see what the standings did.
Yeah.
So we
Captain
do,
Jack
I
is
wanna
gonna
see
drop,
that
I'm
in
pretty sure
writing.
that's the mayor.
we do still provide Zoom as an option. I mean, city council members are welcome to join on Zoom. And we don't have a minimum number of people that have to be present here to hold that meeting, correct?
Now, generally, staff, we'll have staff here, but
Have somebody-
council members.
I'll be sitting here by myself running the
Right, yeah,
Zoom,
we don't
yeah.
want Jennifer to be here.
Yep.
And do it.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, that was
Being
fast.
Captain Jack.
That was fast. Okay, true or false? The city council should avoid talking about matters that are not listed on the agenda. That's an easy one. Oh, that was so fast.
Wow.
That was very, very
Good.
fast. Yes, obviously, we want to avoid talking about matters that aren't on the agenda, but occasionally, if we do start to get derailed or get off track, we absolutely cannot make any vote or motions or take any action on something that's not on the agenda.
So there are
there's that.
times where you might see Lisa or myself can say, let's get back on track, just because we're going too far out, and we want to make sure the public's aware of our deliberation on an item. That's not this.
Right.
There's a lot of leeway there. I think we allow too much sometimes, but just kidding. There's leeway there, of course.
Okay. Next question. A full audio recording is required from all public meetings except nice. Site visits. A full and unedited audio recording is required from all of our open and public meetings except for a site visit or a traveling tour. Occasionally, the council will go to the park together or go to the, I don't know.
Riding e-bikes on the hillside.
Yeah, things like that. And so an audio recording is not required from those instances as long as, again, no vote or action is taken during those site visits. These instances still do require noticing if we know in advance that you're going to be going on a tour together of Island View Park or something, then we will still notice that to the public so they know that a quorum will be present there, but no vote or action will be taken. Okay. I think we have 2 questions left. How soon must the audio recording and approved minutes be made available to the public?
How'd you do?
Nobody.
Little spread there.
You're going for it.
All in.
I thought it was that, and I didn't get it right. I would have secured the win.
To be fair, it's not really up to you guys. It's on me. to publish these things within 3 days, but it is within 3 days. The audio and minutes need to be made available. So,
But it says audio and approved minutes. Is it?
Yes, that was
That
what
was
was throwing
tricky.
me off a little.
oh,
Because the approved
'Cause
minutes
approved minutes
don't
don't
happen.
happen for
Like, isn't
2
it 30
weeks.
days
Tutor.
to approve them?
well,
Once the minutes
they're
are.
approved.
so once the minutes are, so for example, tonight, you're going to approve the minutes from the January 2nd meeting.
Then you have 3
So within
days.
3 days, I need to have those minutes published.
There we go.
Okay.
That's a good, not from the meeting itself, but from the
Right.
motion.
Because we have 30 days to approve them, right?
Right, and so if
the
for
next
whatever
meeting, right, you
reason,
don't meet with them.
there's not gonna be a meeting,
Clean up that question next year.
if for some reason we are canceling 2 meetings and you're not gonna be meeting for 30 days, I'll go ahead and publish the draft minutes and make those available, because it'll be more than 30 days. But typically, we meet every 14 days, and so it's not a problem, and then I just publish
Our
them after
committees,
the
of
minutes are
course, we
approved.
struggle 30 days sometimes. with them.
Yeah.
Next time we play this game, let me know in advance and I will study, because it really is bugging me.
This is your study. It's okay. This is your study.
On the job training.
Hey, last question. Bonus round.
I would totally do it, Bryce, don't laugh at me. I would totally study.
What is Brant's go-to lunch at the office?
That's a great question.
No idea.
Yes, I need to go on a diet. Thank you.
Your go-to lunch?
Was there some discussion of this recently?
I don't know what,
Okay.
I don't know what the.
I'm just glad that this one doesn't count.
I don't know why it came up.
$1 banquet. Backyard rib is my favorite.
Gosh, how much sodium is in that thing?
Not enough.
But 5 people got it
My
right.
body knows how to process home cooked meals.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't.
probably the 5 that are in the office. Hey, here's
Proud of 5 of you.
the final podium. 3rd place, Dingy.
Game first, you're last.
Hazy Summer, 2nd place, 1st place.
It's like Captain
Captain Jack.
Captain Jack.
On the phone, it said.
That's right. So Shaylin, you
On
won
the phone, it
anyway?
said it- the next one doesn't count.
me.
Yeah, wait.
Woo!
I will get tomorrow as your.
That's right, in the previous life.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, that was
Dinners for Whitney.
fun.
Bless his heart.
Great question.
There's a-
Best way to do
I
that.
wanted to do something fun at the end.
Snooze or otherwise.
You're kidding this?
All for it.
It's not a lot of calories.
I like this anonymous.
Right, it's kind of fun.
There?
Oh, yeah, I was there.
Wished I had an iPad, but you know. Know who he likes best.
Well, I'm trying my best. I'll get it to you tomorrow.
We should have a game every meeting.
I'll second.
Gotta figure out how to wrap that in.
Okay, you all passed your annual training for this year.
Yay. I like it.
Yeah, for the other game, let's wrap it up.
Where'd you find that one?
What?
How did you find that one originally?
Kahoot?
Yeah.
I used to do Kahoot
So you
quizzes
just-
when I was in
you
college.
just create the questions. then.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah.
around.
I just put one together myself. Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was fun, so, and I appreciate you explaining them at the end, so we could learn from it. All right, so let's go to the minutes. This is minute review and approval of the January 2nd city council. Any changes to those minutes? Anybody saw and reviewing?
Which will be posted in 3 days.
Motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, those are approved. All right, let's go to these appointments. The first one is that the sewer board requires that we do a special resolution for it. So the first one we have is the appointment of a city representative to the South Davis Sewer District Board of Trustees. And this is to reappoint Gina Hurst to the South Davis Sewer Board of Trustees for a 4-year term. That's Resolution 2024-02.
We gave her a glowing recommendation.
To a 4-year term,
That was really
Gina?
nice of them.
Yeah, that's telling us something, isn't
They do
it?
4-year terms.
They do a 4-year term, so. And, yeah, she did get a glowing recommendation, so. We have a motion to, on Resolution 2024-02.
Oh, so it's an actual resolution for just that specific one?
Just for that specific one, yeah.
I will so move.
Yeah, oh, yeah, second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passed unanimously. They'll be happy to get that resolution from us, won't they? Next one is.
Just the question on that, why did they make it a point of resolution? So
That's
if
just
we
a-
had somebody on the fire board or the rec center board,
We don't, you don't have them there.
right, I'm just wondering,
It's by statute.
for just that special service?
Well, some of the other ones require it, but that's why we've been adopting this council, the next item, the council appointment list by resolution.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it
that's
covers
true.
everybody,
Okay,
but they
They want to do it for belts and
their own,
suspenders?
and that's the way we did it last time, so we
Okay,
just.
Yeah.
got it.
I was gonna say, that's how you did it last year. So when I was appointed last year, it was to finish out the rest of the term. That's why we're doing it again.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is 2024-03, and this is the chart is in front of you. This is assignments that made to committees, boards, outside agencies. There is one hole in this because it requires that I guess council, for the mayor pro tem, that I personally would choose to put Spencer Summerhays there, but I guess it requires that we discuss it in the meeting. Is that what it is, Lisa?
Yes, so most of these
Mayor pro
appointments are by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council, but the mayor pro tem is for the city council to decide, so the mayor
Okay.
has recommended.
Yeah.
I
So,
support that.
I support that also.
Same.
I also support.
okay, so, we all support on that, so am I okay there if we just,
Maybe you'll add that to a Kahoot question next year. What does the mayor pro tem have to do in the absence?
Ooh.
there you go.
Everything?
I think this mayor's not gone very much.
I know, it's
so
really nice.
It's not a difficult
Yeah,
job.
exactly.
So, Resolution 2024-03 covers all the rest of those appointments that are on that chart. I have chatted with each one of you. Hopefully you understand your appointments or you will learn them. But I guess we need to approve this resolution of what you see. And thank you to Jennifer and Lisa putting this together. Motion to approve that. Any questions on it first?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, do we have motion and a second to approve resolution 2024-03? Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the next thing is we have position available on the planning commission with Heidi's term ending. And so I have, I'm submitting to you the name of Lane Jenkins for planning commission with your, what do we call this, advice and consent or something? So, need a motion or approval of Lane Jenkins, the planning commission?
What is Lane Jenkins' background?
Lane's, is in recreation. He's presently the Layton City, what's his title up there?
He's the aquatics manager, did I see that
Aquatic
on the
manager.
application?
He's been in our Parks and Rec board for about a year.
And I believe he has an MPA.
Yeah,
He has aspirations to be
Been in city government for a number of years.
city manager one day.
yeah, so he has a Master of Public Administration and, so that's, obviously he's a resident of the city, any planning commissioner has to be.
Sounds like a great choice. Do you need a motion to approve?
Yeah,
Yep, I'll make the motion.
Second.
motion is second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that leads us to, council report, and it's Gina, Councilwoman Hurst.
I don't have a whole lot to report on. The sewer district did approve their property tax increase. On an average home, that'll be about $48 a year. Our irrigation company is pretty quiet right now. They did do their billing in December, which irritated people, but I think I reported all of this to you guys. This is all kind of just historical information at this point, so. And the Parks Committee hasn't met for a couple of months, so I don't have anything else to report. Do you have any questions?
When does Dual Creek meet next?
They meet pretty regularly during the summer, just their board, but they have one annual meeting.
So Mike brought up, because I had asked Mike to take me on a tour of 1250 that he was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And this whole topic of Dual Creek got brought up because that's where we have culinary and maybe Dual Creek comes in and takes over. I don't know if you have kind of pushed that discussion and get residents on board, just to.
Yeah.
For me, it's a function of, hey, if we can get people on Dual Creek as opposed to our treated water, let's do it, if at all possible. So if we can help push that along between Dual Creek and our city staff, that'd be fantastic,
Okay.
at least in my mind.
I'm happy to reach out to him. I'll work on that.
Mayor, since our last meeting at the rec center, we continue to make policy updates so that we're getting more streamlined and tight, specifically as it relates to skating. Skating is still in a postponement period, figure skating. It's still just public skating and hockey right now. Hoping to let people back on the ice from a figure skating standpoint here in the next few weeks. I was appointed to be vice chair in the last meeting before I could say no. And I've also been appointed to our annual admin review subcommittee. So that would be reviewing our annual review with our executive director. So that's,
Thanks.
we'll be starting.
And I would give you a glowing review for being on.
Thank you, you're nice.
Thank you for your service.
That's what Bryce told. Bryce was kind enough, and we went into a 5-hour meeting last time. He was kind enough to bring the chocolate-covered pretzels.
You noticed we didn't move you from that board.
Last
so
long.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Even if you did want to be moved.
Looks like I'm chair next year, so.
Anybody else have anything pressing with any of their committees or boards we need to know?
Oh, I will say that probably on our next agenda, by statute, our legal counsel is, there's an agenda item to go from an 8-member board to a 7-member board to
I like
meet
that.
state statute.
Yeah, I like that. We've never, from day one, I've never understood why it was an 8-member board.
I never understood it when I was on there too. 'Cause we actually had a number of tie votes during the last
Yeah,
budget approval and truth and taxation process, so.
yeah. Yeah, so thank you. All right, mayor's report. I'm gonna condense it. It seems like everybody with the holidays decided to do all their meetings and ribbon cuttings and everything the first 2 weeks of the year. So I've been, I think I looked back and had something almost every day since the last meeting. Some of that was I chose to do, so it's, but I'm on the South Davis Metro Fire Board. I'm the chair of that board this year, I think, because I told you so. I did get with Chief Stone last Thursday, and I'd only been really to our fire station, and I said, hey, I want to go around to all the different fire stations. And that was really good, not only meeting a lot of our firefighters and the captains, but also seeing how we have our apparatus strategically placed at all the different fire stations for what you may need, like, you know, the highest one up in the hill in Bountiful. You know, that's where we got a big vehicle, a big apparatus with four-wheel drive, you know, big, get up in the mountains up in there and that sort of thing. So I'll be starting that, and I'm pleased to have Brent, head of the admin board as well too, so we can keep each other in check, so. And then COG this year, we haven't had a meeting yet. I'll be the immediate past chair. Those are only one-year terms, and I was chair of COG last year. That's where all the mayors and the 3 county commissioners, Chamber of Commerce, Hill Air Force Base, Colonel, and Davis County, Davis School Board rep get together. So we have our first meeting tomorrow on COG, so I'll report back that later. Centerpoint Theater will have a meeting before our next meeting. LPC starts up in earnest. We did have a meeting last week but it starts up in earnest as far as meeting at the Capitol at noon or by Zoom this coming Monday. We have 3 voting members, Brent, myself, and Gina. You just approved that, and then Lisa's also a member of it as well too, but not a voting member. Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District, I'm the vice chair of that this year. We won't meet until February, and then other things that happened in the last couple of weeks. I think I told you we went to Switch Point. That's a homeless facility out in Tooele because of House Bill 444 from last year that requires us being a second-class county to have a homeless facility. So I'm not one of the 6 on that board. Right now they're looking at potentially a site up in Sunset. I met 8 or 9 of us from the county met in Kaysville at a restaurant and talked with Congressman Curtis, who is running for Senate, and spent about 2 hours with him. The 950 North Interchange, we met to open the West Davis Corridor a week ago Saturday, and that was pretty cool. You could run the route or bike it or whatever, and then they allowed cars to come on all at the same time. And as Mayor Vincent's wife said to us, Mayor Vincent's from West Point, said this is like our meeting of the railroads, Promontory Point, you know, or 1869. So that's open now, so you can enter it. You know where it starts here in our city, and you can drive 16 miles out on the West Davis Corridor now. And then we had at Viewmont last week, we had cutting the ribbon of the teen center, and yeah, I think I sent an invitation out to whoever could come to it. You should go by and see it sometime, and the good that that's doing. You know, I met with Principal Lund, I think I told you earlier in the year in September, and he told me some real life incidences of students there that, you know, will use a facility like that. So that's some of the things that I've had going on in the last couple of weeks. Any questions? Okay, Brent, city manager report.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just have a few items. The first is in addressing the glass recycling comment we had this morning, or earlier this meeting, sorry.
That's how long the meetings felt like.
Earlier this evening, we've been kind of looking at that internally. It's just where is the location of that dumpster is kind of where we're debating. So we'll look at that more as staff on where that location might be. We're not opposed to it. We think it's actually not a bad idea. It's just how engaged do we get into recycling? Because some of the areas are really challenging. Glass seems like a pretty easy one, to be honest with you, in terms of cardboard is really challenging to manage, how strongly, it costs you a lot of money to recycle cardboard. So anyway, but we'll look at glass recycling, but where does that dumpster go?
Are you kind of considering parks versus city hall or
Yeah,
Public Works.
Public Works yard. He's gonna kill me.
Public works seems to be inconvenient for me.
I know, I was gonna say.
But no,
that.
it's not convenient. It's not convenient. That's
Yeah.
why it's not actually on the
Yeah,
list,
okay.
but.
Didn't
Yeah,
you
so-
say you have one, Gina?
Yeah, we have the little, it's like a little baby.
$8 a month.
Yeah, we have the $8 a month.
Yeah, Bill had that one too.
Bill had one, that one too, but he said he went almost through his whole ward and he could never get it filled.
Yeah, I remember saying that, yeah.
Did I hear a comment that there is a place to recycle at Target? I did not know that.
Inside there is.
I didn't know that either.
I take my,
About that
like, my
one.
plastic bags there.
So, anyway, but just want to let you know, we are kind of looking at those options, and I appreciate the youth and coming to support the idea. It's great. Appreciate that. Councilmember Hurst, I'll check out, see if any other cities require the Alta survey. I'm curious about that.
I mean, I guess the reason I'm asking it is I just wanted to maybe gauge how particular we're being, but I
I
frankly
don't think that really
it
matters. It's
might
based on what
be-
our needs are really.
Yeah, yeah, based on this
You may
new
see a lot of
system, I
cities
like the
going to
idea.
that based off of the more,
In passing, I'll
Yeah.
ask.
in terms of less reviewability, I think you're gonna see cities being more strict on their checklists.
They're gonna have to be.
But we need that information up front.
We really do.
Right.
Because we're asking for it anyway, and if it's part of our review, we don't want that to be one of our reviews. We want that done right away, because we only have so many reviews now.
Yeah.
I am the vice chair of IRMA. I was last year as well, so I'm the vice chair again this year. IRMA is our Utah Risk Management Agency. That's kind of our umbrella. We're self-insured, but we're part of a pool of 12 cities. I actually will be having the executive director and his staff come to a presentation, a work session, mostly just to start establishing a relationship with the elected officials with IRMA, because us as staff have a good relationship with IRMA and we really appreciate them, but you as council don't really get to see them very often. So we'll start inviting them at least once a year. We'll invite them to come talk about the services and the role they play in supporting our city. So that'll be in the next probably couple of months. We'll invite them to come do a presentation. Chair of the Admin Committee, Mayor shared that. In addition to the LPC every Monday with the league, us city managers have a Friday kind of LPC, mini LPC, Utah City Managers Association and the league, and we have a far different conversation when it's just us city managers, where we get to share our input administratively of how some of these bills impact our cities. So anyway, I'll be attending those every Friday as well. It's just a Zoom call, but if you have any questions from that standpoint, or you give thoughts, I can share that with that group. It really is more intimate with Cameron Dill and Justin Lee with the league, smaller group, so really helpful. Anyway, any questions for me? Thank you.
Oh, wait, I do have a question.
I have an answer.
Sorry. So for my edification, again, asking lots of questions because I'm new to this process. So we have a city email and we received an email from another city staff
Planner.
member, but it went to city council. I forwarded it to you because I was like, I don't know what
Yes.
to do with this. Is that the normal protocol that we should do as city council members? Just forward them to you?
That's kind of strange. I don't know. Do you all get emails from staff often? Because I felt that was a little weird.
That was weird, that's the first time
That's-
Yeah.
this is the Ogden City one?
Yes.
Yeah.
That seems like it
Yeah,
should,
that one I,
that should
yeah.
be a staff member to a staff member question.
Yeah,
So I
that's-
didn't even respond.
We felt that was, but ultimately shared it with both Whitney and Chief, and that's actually a time-consuming request for us to go back and look through. So I haven't asked Whitney to do this, but more than likely I'll have Whitney respond to, since it's planner to planner, and have a conversation. What are you looking for? So, you got that? Thanks, Whitney. So yeah, but that was perfect. Yeah, we want to help him for sure, but you wouldn't have that information.
Right.
So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brent. So, I need a motion to go to a closed session, and the purpose is on the agenda there, with no intent to return to city council meeting.
I'll make a motion that we move to a closed session to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual with no intent to return to the public meeting.
Second?
A motion is second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.